watching Real Simple News on Tuesday, July 28th, 2020. And today in the news, 3 black militia members shot each other in friendly fire in Louisville, Kentucky, because they were not a well-trained militia and they were not well-trained in safe handling of firearms. Another open carrier was killed in Austin when he was intimidating the crowd with an AK-47, and they attempted to stop a motorist who had a pistol, and he was a better shot. And a 60-year-old black Trump supporter was murdered in Milwaukee in a drive-by shooting in broad daylight. Real Simple News is an open source news organization. This is issue number 23. You can find us on GitHub at github.com/Real Simple News /Real Simple News. And it's issue ticket number 23. And if you find any sort of errors in the story, if I sometimes misspeak, you can correct me here on GitHub, and you can find us here on the internet at realsimplenews.net, where you can find more. Well, it's a new website. I'm one person. I need help with the website. In our next news story from GOP USA, members of Black Militia Group Nfca hit by friendly fire during Louisville protest. This story is from July 27th, 2020. It says 3 members of a black-led pro-gun organization Not Effing Around coalition were struck by friendly fire in Louisville, Kentucky on Saturday while protesting the police shooting of Breonna Taylor, according to reports. And if you're unfamiliar with Breonna Taylor, she was the narcotics trafficker who was shot in what people said was a no-knock raid, but as it turns out, they actually knocked on the door, and her boyfriend, who was also involved in the narcotics investigation, shot at the police, and then they killed her, which does not sound anything like the police brutality that was claimed. But moving on in the article, shots were fired around 1 p.m. in Louisville Baxter Park, police said. Police attributed to the shots to an accidental discharge. All 3 victims managed to survive with non-life-threatening injuries. Nfca members proceeded with the demonstration, which wrapped up around 4:30 p.m. without any further issues, despite pre-march concerns about clashes between left and right-wing groups. And if you're not familiar with these black militia people, these people are nuts. They are on one. They're not like, I love 2A people. These people aren't your normal 2A. Hold on. Honestly, they're good people. They're misled.
They had a message for the crowd and a conversation with local city leaders. Jesse Cohen shares their message.
It was a long day as members of the NFAC started at Baxter Square, made their way down here to Jefferson Square Park, and then went back up towards 12th and Jefferson. We were there as they were gathering and getting ready for a long day, but then things changed. People ducking behind cars, medics running to help.
During one of our safety checks, one of our individuals accidentally fired their weapon.
We watched 2 people get taken away in an ambulance after getting shot. That's how the day started for the NFAC, who shortly...
Sorry. Wrong monitor. So these people have been intimidating people with guns in Louisville, Kentucky. And then where's that place where Stone Mountain's at? So these people have been getting in internet troll wars with people on the internet and self-radicalizing themselves about complaining about all this oppression that they're somehow experiencing that is somehow like supposed to be more oppression than the white people get. They've been searching for a fight. So when you're protesting, it says you have a right to peacefully assemble, peacefully protest, petition the government for redress of grievances. So this means that when you're doing it, you're not breaking the law when you do so. That you're, when you go there, if you're going to be at a 2A rally, and you're there with your gun to show your support for 2A, that is a perfectly legal bearing of arms. If you are there looking for a fight because you have an enemy and you want to kill that enemy, you are not a peaceful protester. You are there looking for a fight. So these people a lot of these people have been, a lot of these people are guilty of mismanaging their firearms. So they'll walk around with their finger on the trigger. Woo, boy, there's a lot of them.
Here we go, we move.
Oops. And they're very angry. That's the difference in between a normal 2A protester. A normal 2A protester is not there because they are angry.
Wake, but when you wake up, you got to get up and do something. Otherwise, you're going to fall back asleep. So I need y'all to agree with me. 4 weeks from today, we going to come back here and we should have an answer, right? If not, I need y'all to repeat after me. If we don't get the truth, the whole truth, and the motherfucking truth, we are going to burn this motherfucker down.
Woo! You heard it. You heard it from them. You gotta take it right from the horse's mouth there. They want everything that they're demanding, and if they don't get everything that they're demanding, they're going to burn this mother effer down, and they do not care whether or not you and your family are in there. So I'm still trying, I've watched this clip a number of times. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is that they're actually saying that they want. What is their grievance that they are attempting to get redresses about? It seems like their beef is with the Boogaloo Boys on the internet. And as it turns out, the Boogaloo Boys are actually hardcore Antifa. Yeah, those right-wing extremists, they have a tendency to be extremely anti-fascist. This next article from the Courier Journal is entitled, Police Interview Says Breonna Taylor's Home Was a Soft Target, Suspect Already Located. Louisville police officers serving a no-knock search warrant at Breonna Taylor's apartment. So it says it's a no-knock warrant, but just because it says it's a no-knock warrant does not mean that they did a no-knock raid. They were at the apartment at the night she died, where we're told that she was a soft target with minimal threats, and that the 26-year-old emergency room technician was likely already home, newly released police interviews reveal. Quote, they said they did not believe that she had children or animals, but they weren't sure. End quote. Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly told the investigators in a recorded interview about 2 weeks after police fatally shot Taylor in her apartment. Quote, said she should be there alone because their target was there, or they knew their target was there, and they knew where their target was. So the rumor is that the person was already in custody, and that they went and they did this no-knock raid where they killed Breonna Taylor. And as it turns out, this wasn't actually the case. And this is a repeating story, happens over and over and over again with these radical leftists. where they presume you're guilty until proven innocent, and then they inflict mob justice on you, and they riot and loot and murder, and they burn down your city. Police surveillance conducted earlier that evening, before officers served the warrant after midnight on March 13th, showed little activity in the apartment, Mattingly said. The only light was the glow of the TV in her bedroom. Mattingly's comments that police knew where their target was appeared to be a reference to Jamargus Glover, one of the main suspects of the narcotics investigation. The same night Taylor was killed, Glover was arrested after police searched his Elliott Avenue house on a separate warrant. Sam Aguilar and Lonita Baker, attorneys for Taylor's family, have insisted for months that police did not need to forcibly enter Taylor's apartment because they knew Glover was not there. Mattingly's comments echoed that. Glover and Taylor had dated years earlier and maintained a positive friendship, according to Aguilar. Mattingly said police believed Taylor had held drugs and money for Glover. So this woman isn't completely innocent. It definitely appears as though she was getting lit and selling shit. Rob Agert, the attorney for Taylor's boyfriend, Keith Walker, provided copies of the full Public Integrity Unit interviews with Mattingly and Walker to the Courier-Journal. Before first being reported by NBC News on Thursday morning, only parts of the recording had been publicly released. Commonwealth's attorney Tom Wine had played pieces of Walker and Mattingly's interview at a May 22nd conference, but Louisville police have still refused to release the full recordings. Wine provided the recordings to Eggert. In this statement Thursday, Aguilar and Florida-based attorney Ben Crump said the joint statement that the recorded statements suggested that there'd been a conspiracy to cover up Breonna's killing since day one. Enough is enough, attorneys wrote. It's time for the officers involved in the tragic night to be terminated from their positions and charged with the murder of Breonna Taylor. On May 25th, 12 days after Taylor's death, police department's Public Integrity Unit interviewed Mattingly for about 40 minutes. Mattingly is one of three officers who shot a weapon at Taylor at Taylor's apartment, along with officers Mike Klossgard and Brett Hankinson. Hankinson has since been fired, while Mattingly and Crossgrove remain in the administrative reassignment. Do you remember the name of the target in the search warrant? An investigator asked Sergeant. Not offhand, Mattingly said, "We didn't write it. We didn't do any of the investigation. We did none of the background." In fact, Detective Joshua Janes secured 5 no-knock warrants for the larger narcotics investigation on May 12th. One for Taylor's apartment, 3 for neighboring houses on Elliott Avenues, 1 for West Muhammad Ali Boulevard. Janes has since been placed on administrative assignment pending the results of the investigation into how the warrants were obtained. Police executed those warrants. See, they buried this. It's really irritating that they buried this. This is the most important line in the entire story, and it took us a really, really, really long time to get to that. In the future, if you want to be a good journalist, you should put the bottom line up front. That's what we do here at Real Simple News. Police executed 4 of... Hold on, is that the right one? Yeah, police executed 4 of the warrants. Wait, what just happened? It was a heavy manpower intensive operation. They just needed bodies, Mattingly said. Mattingly said police at Taylor's apartment repeatedly knocked and announced their presence. He said they were unsure. He was unsure why the warrant was requested as a no-knock, but he knew then But he was then told to knock and announce, quote, our intent was to give her plenty of time to come to the door because they said she was probably there alone. Mattingly said he told investigators they wanted more. They wanted more than enough time to give an average person, even a disabled person, to get to the door before deciding to force entry. When police entered, Walker fired one shot, which he described as a warning, because he thought intruders were breaking in, and struck Mattingly in the leg. Mattingly, Crossgrove, and Hankinson returned fire. Taylor was then shot 5 times, and she died in the hallway. And so here's a picture of Miss Taylor. She was very beautiful. The world is a worse place. Sounds like she was very cool. So, you know, this is all... A lot of these reasons why these people protesting are that they're just totally making up. They're like, this is like mob justice. For instance, George Floyd had a lethal dose of meth in his system, a lethal dose of fentanyl, and he tested positive for COVID. He had a heart attack in the ambulance after an EMT checked his pulse. So the EMT checked his pulse and he was alive, and then they placed him in an ambulance where he then had a heart attack. And given this situation, it would have then physically been impossible for Officer Chauvin to have killed George Floyd, because George Floyd would have to have been dead in the ambulance if that was actually true. This next article from NPR is entitled Police Declare Riots at Portland and Seatle Protest, 1 killed in Austin. Protests raged in several cities around the country Saturday night over police brutality and systemic racism. That's not true. If it was over police brutality and systemic racism, well then, why on earth aren't the Republicans out there protesting? Why is it just the Democrats protesting? Why is it that it's a BLM protest? It's an election year where we're going to decide the president. And the last time BLM was trending was in the 2016 presidential election year, using about the same kind of tactics with their fundraising. BLM fundraisers are partially funded by Democrat organizations. BLM members are almost exclusively Democrats. So they're absolutely not rioting, looting, murdering police officers and burning the hood down to protest systemic racism and brutality. They're absolutely protesting against Donald Trump. Continuing the article, thousands of protesters descended on Seattle and Portland, where police in both sides declared the gathering had become riots and made dozens of arrests. And in Austin, police said someone in a car shot and killed a protester. In Austin, shortly before 10 p.m. Saturday, downtown, as hundreds were walking down a street, many with their fist above them, a car turned towards protesters. Everyone back up, someone shouted in a video of the incident. Less than a second later, 5 gun blasts echoed through the streets. Protesters ran, screaming, and a few more shots were heard. Police said the victim, an adult male, had approached the vehicle while carrying an AK-47. The driver of the car opened fire, hitting the man. Officials believe a second round of gunshots then came from someone in the crowd, shooting after the car, local ABC affiliate reported. And this is fake news. The first shots fired were from an AK-47. So we're going to watch the video.
Everybody back up!
how loud that was. Pop, pop, pop. That was the handgun. All right. So there was 2 guns. One went boom, boom, boom. One went pop, pop, pop. So I know that liberals don't really know very much about guns. Here's the guy. Here's a picture of the guy here. Hold on. Here's what the liberals... Hold on. You know, there was supposed to be another video here. Do we have the... Yeah, here's the video. Sorry. Here's the guy.
AK-47. What you got it out tonight? They don't let us march in the streets anymore, so got to practice some of our rights. Well, man, do you feel like you'll need to use it? Nah, I think I mean, if I use it against the cops, I'm dead. And I think all the people that hate us and, you know, want to say shit to us are too big of pussies to stop and actually do anything about it. So, why'd you start carrying? Well, our roommate got arrested and they stopped letting us march anywhere, so started carrying. Thanks.
So the reason why he's there is not to protest against police brutality and against racism. It's because his roommate got arrested. He thinks that the Nazis are coming to take his rights away, and so he's down there with a gun to fight Nazis. So let's hear what some lunatic lefties are saying about this whole thing.
And welcome to another episode of Above It All. And I made this video yesterday about how a protester in Austin was shot and killed in a car attack. And the right wing, as you can see, 3,000 views, 500 dislikes. I'm going to give my own video a like here. Yeah, that's right. I'm liking my own video. Stay mad. But a lot of people in the comment section, well, when they weren't trying to call me a tranny, Antifa, soy boy and stuff, kept saying that the guy shot first. Like it's some like Star Wars like fucking debate or something. Like when you fire off the first shots, right? Like this is like every single comment from these right-wing MAGA boomers is about how Garrett shot first. And therefore, he deserved it. So I've been talking on my channel a lot about how the Nazi to Trump pipeline is real. And so basically what
All right, I used to be a radical liberal. I helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protests because I thought Donald Trump was a misogynistic pig. I thought he was racist. I hated police because I thought they were scum because of the war on drugs. And the reason why I became a Trump supporter was because I realized that the news was fake. Well, first, I realized that even though I had been a feminist my entire life, even though I helped start the 26 Portland anti-Trump protests, that if I criticized feminism, that people that I knew for decades would turn on me because I've watched them do it to other people. So I started posting meninist jokes on Facebook, stuff that like, I was like making some meninist Bible of like funny quotes. It was just, they were just jokes meant to piss feminists off. And they started flipping a wig on me. I started getting trolled and the trolling got worse and worse and worse. And then it started causing all these problems. I had to delete my Facebook. And then I started noticing anytime I criticize feminism on the internet, I have a drove of people from the tech industry because I'm a software and computer engineer. I would notice that like there would be like people trying to destroy my career because I criticize feminism because they're obsessed with equality. and because they are run by immigrants, and they love replacing people there for people who can work for less and who are more liberal, more like them, and they've created a heterogeneous echo chamber of groupthink. And so I definitely did not start out as a conservative. I started out as a liberal, and it was because of the liberals attacking me that I became joined the walk away movement. And then after joining the walk away movement, then I learned about slowly started to learn about the brainwashing that was going on. And then I started doing it was Coffee with Kale before Real Simple News. And then from doing Coffee with Kale over like maybe 6 or 7 months, I slowly started to realize that the news was fake. Eventually, you read enough of the stories that you eventually start to see the pattern of how they're trying to get clickbait, rage bait, fembait, rage bait. And then it became real simple news, because it's really, my news stories come from Really Simple Syndication, which is where all of the news organizations publish their stuff. So that's why it's called Real Simple News, is because we monitor the RSS news feeds for fake news.
I think here is that a bunch of 4chaners, 8chaners, whatever channers, found my video. You know, it was part of their propaganda machine. They wanted to disperse fake news, right? And so they just spam my video with a bunch of insults and you know, ooh, look, there's a male YouTuber. Haha, I'm funny, right? And they're talking about how Garrett shot first, and therefore it's okay that he's dead. In fact, it's not only okay, it's justified, right? But, or rather, and also,
if Garrett shot first, why did the driver not go to jail?
this is the thing as well, is again, this is a conspiracy theory started in the 4chan, 8chan neo...
Oh, really? Really? I know you liberals don't know very much about guns, but here's an AK-47. This is what an AK-47 looks like. Here's a video of a cute kid with an AK-47 in... Where is this guy in Pakistan? Ottawa? It's loaded down! And so here's what an AK, you just heard one shot. So let's hear some echoey shots with the AK. So here are some Pakistanis killing a cow because why not?
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Tamashan sadiya nizimni se shaya kalchus manne lage. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah.
All right, now let's go back to the video. Now that you've been refreshed on your memory on what an AK-47 sounds like, let's listen to the video. Right? Can we, let's, oops. I think we lost it. I was going to play it again, but it didn't work out. So, it's not a conspiracy theory. A reasonable person can, with their own ears, listen to evidence and compare the two gunshots, and you can hear for yourself that indeed it is an AK-47 that was shot off at first. And, oh, there it is. Sorry. Right. That's the sound that we heard. In this next news article from the New York Post, protester and driver have an intense standoff at gunpoint in Eugene, Oregon. This story's from July 27th, 2020. It says a demonstrator and a motorist engaged in a tense gun standoff in Eugene, Oregon. Street video of the run-in shows the confrontation unfolding in a march last weekend when the driver ordered protesters to clear an intersection, was attempting to navigate. According to the student journalist who witnessed the incident, quote, someone in the traffic apparently pulled a gun and said, "Get the F out of my way," tweeted C. Francis O'Leary, the University of Oregon's Daily Emerald. Quote, truck guy pulled his gun again. BLM matter. Protester ran up. Here, wait a minute. Hold on. I gotta get rid of the something in the way of my camera. Protester ran up with their own gun and said, "Drop it," added O'Leary in another message, along with a 4-second video of the pair training their weapons on each other. Do we have the video? No, they were too sloppy to put the video up. Here's the here's the confrontation. Wasn't the view I wanted. All right, so the view, we'll go back and watch the rest of that here. This was what I wanted to start with, but I clicked on the wrong one. Here's the 4-second dramatic video. That's what's going on right now in that video, but their camera sucks. Get a phone with a good camera. Seriously. You need it. You deserve it. So here's so the same Eugene, Oregon protest. I live in Eugene, Oregon. I had no idea that this was even going on. I had discovered that there was a rally going on like at night, and it was probably right about the same time that this was going around. I was driving around the block with my cameras trying to find the organization or where they were at. I could not find where they were at. This next article from the Daily Mail says, Black Trump supporter 60 is shot dead in Milwaukee. Detectives are investigating political motives, whether after Bluff community activist was gunned down in a drive-by. It was this gentleman. He was a beloved person, a man of God, was not out to harm you. He was not a fascist. He is not clearly is not an anti-black racist. This is I wish I had a friend like him. It says thugs up before. Can't read it. Bernell Trammell, 60, was gunned down in a drive-by shooting on Thursday. He was known for his signs that said Trump 2020 and recited Bible verses. Cops have not yet landed on a motive, but are discussing his links to the GOP. Residents of the neighborhood said he was not afraid to express his political views. The Republican Party has called for a federal investigation into the slaying. Chairman Andrew Hilt said no American should fear for their personal safety because of where they live or their political affiliation. I personally fear for my safety. I am being called far right in Eugene that is very far left, and I regularly get threats of physical attack. A lot of people know where I live because I used to be a very popular person before I turned into an engineer. And so I have to have security cameras at my house. I can't leave valuables in my studio. I have to pack up all of my stuff and bring it into the safe room to make sure that I don't have people showing up with guns to steal my stuff and attempt to kill me because they think I'm far right, because I don't support illegal immigration, because I think it's land theft and that it's immoral and that it makes it so that our neighbors can encroach on our territory and then slowly over time annex our territory. And you as a tax-paying citizen, the rules are supposed to be biased in your family's favor. And when the natives in America's birth rate is down like it is, down at like 1.5, 1.6, and the Asians are like only childs, they're like 1.1 birth per woman. When they're that low and you start packing in nonstop immigrants, you're replacing our Americans with people from outside of the country, and we are tax-paying citizens. We don't want to pay our tax money in order to bring in massive amounts of drugs from outside of this country, because 30% of all federal drug trafficking convictions are from illegal aliens, and they bring in heroin, meth, and fentanyl, and a load of other very deadly drugs. They do it in order to get money, and they do not care whether or not Americans die, because they themselves too might want to kill Americans, and they themselves too have a drug problem and are willing to die themselves. And our government should not incentivize this behavior, because 56% of illegal immigrants are from Mexico. 1 in 20 Mexicans is in the United States illegally. There is 20 illegal immigrants for every homeless person on the street. Homeless people do dope from cartels. None of these reasons are racist. Not at all. They're all pro-American. And when you don't kick out illegal immigrants, you create a permanent underclass of people, and you make it so that it's harder for Latinos who are born here in the country, who are also tax-paying citizens and who also vote here and whose children are not racist. You're making it harder for them and their children to live the American dream, because they have to compete with these low wages from out of the country. And because they are the same race as the other low-wage workers, they are then shoved into this caste. And so there's no real reason why the Latino population would support illegal immigration other than the fact that they're a Democrat, because about a third of Latinos are Republicans, and most of them want to build the wall because most Latinos are not from Mexico. And if 56% of illegal immigrants are from Mexico, And there's only 450,000 there's 450,000 immigrants from Brazil, a country with 210 million. Mexico has 150 million people in it. Well, why on earth would an immigrant from Brazil want to support illegal immigration? They wouldn't. It only helps Mexicans out. There's hardly any people from Brazil here. People from Brazil love Brazil. Why would they want to move to America? Why? Why don't the other Latinos want to move to Brazil? Maybe it's because Brazil kicks out immigrants, illegal immigrants, and they want to go to America where they can get more money. So these things make you far right in today's batshit crazy la land, where far right is now no longer authoritarian dictators and KKK. Far right is now anybody who does not support BLM, anyone who does not support illegal immigration. And if you do not support illegal immigration, they will then exclude you and fire you, target you, make sure that you can't work in this town anymore, make sure that your children cannot control the country that you're in because you're racist, and they have to make sure they attack your white privilege because y'all are oppressing the white men. You know, it's just a load of shit. They're just murdering people. Murdering people. They're like, no, man, it's a peaceful protest, dude. We're just fighting for equality. Well, guess what? Guess who else was also fighting for equality? Fascists. Fascism started in the women's suffrage movement. Go read the Fascist Manifesto on Wikipedia. That summary of it. Read it. It's definitely very feminist. Fascists were very much so feminist. Fascists were fighting to make the world a better place. That's why they were doing what they did. Nazis did not murder so many people in order to be horrible people. They did it in order to make the world a better place, or so they thought. They just thought that capitalism was immoral. Communists too also thought that capitalism was immoral. And because of this, they were willing to commit atrocities because you had to change the culture, because you couldn't just get them to share with everyone equally, because then they would just bias everything towards their in-group like the Jews did. And that's why the Nazis hated the Jews. So in order for the Nazis to make their socialist utopia, they had to kill millions of people. But you don't just learn, you're not born knowing how to be a serial killer or a genocidal maniac. You are taught how to be a genocidal maniac. And this is what is so scary about this Black Lives Matter movement and this black militia up here, is that first, they hate the white man. They think the white man's taken from them, held their family down, killed them. So, because they've killed their family, they now have a justification to now kill their family. It's justified in the name of equality, because once these people are gone, the world is going to be a better place. You have to kill them because they aren't going to cooperate with you. Because they're not going to cooperate with you, the only way for you to get what you want is to kill them. And people have taught them how to kill. African Americans kill about 9,000 black people in the U.S. per year. They commit about 50% of the murders. They're about 1/6 of the population of the United States. I personally have almost been killed by black people almost three times. I've had 2 home invasion robberies at my house. And then another hostage situation. So the first one, I wasn't there. My sister was there pregnant, and they robbed my house to get some music equipment and my tablet computer, because those were rare back then. And the white guy who was high on drugs put a knife to my pregnant sister's throat, and then the black guy pulled him off of them. The second time in the home invasion robbery was for some ecstasy and some cash at my house, and they came in with guns and pistol whipped me, and it was a coked out white dude and a black dude again. And then the third time was a hostage situation in an RV with a drugged out serial killer gangbanger from Atlanta who I gave some ecstasy to, and he thought I robbed him, and he flipped out and he pulled out a gun, and there was a pregnant woman there, and then they put me in a closet in this RV, and I was like trying to claw my way out of the closet, and then they pulled me out, and then the pregnant woman had grabbed a gun while he's pulling me out of the closet. And so it turns into a hostage situation with two people pointing guns at each other, yelling at each other, and I'm just completely innocent white boy. I was like going over to some like lingerie party over at a friend of mine's house, and totally ruined my night. It was a terrifying situation. It gives I suffer PTSD from it. And this is very common. It's not all black people. It's these hood gangsters. And if you're unfamiliar with the term hood Democrat, a hood Democrat is a low-income person from the big city who votes for Democrats, and they typically have high drug problems, high crime, and they high drug abuse, high crime, and they have low grades. This is why they're low income. So these are the people who are hating Donald Trump so much, blaming them and the white feminist. White feminism is a racist version of feminism that puts white women issues at the top and above issues of people of color. This is why the white feminists are out there protesting with BLM. It's because it's an equality movement, and they want more money because they think they're underpaid, even though they control 2/3 of the wealth in the United States and they control 85% of consumer spending. They want more because the advertisements have brainwashed them to think they're underpaid so that they can ask their boss for a raise because they control 85% of consumer spending. And, well, if you're going to boost your profits, you know which gender to go to now. This next article from BuzzFeed News says police say the umbrella man at George Floyd protest was a white supremacist trying to incite violence. And what the do we have the video? Here is the video of Umbrella Man.
I ain't got part of that shit.
And so they're trying to say that just because this person was, the police had determined they were a member of the Aryan Cowboys, or they were an affiliate of the Aryan Cowboys, member of the Hells Angels, and they were there to provoke conflicts because bad actors will come out during incidences like this and they will provoke conflict.
With a hammer and smashed the windows.
There was, this is an incident of they say he is Hell's Angels, but he associated with some white supremacists. That doesn't, to me, scream white supremacist.
Are you a fucking cop?
But this guy's cold, calculated, methodical. He's definitely not the kind of person that you would want to mess with. And you do have to notice there is a black person there attempting to stop the guy. And so if black people do not support this, let us target the people responsible, the demographics, in the specific cities, not just try to say that it's all black people, because there's a lot of black conservatives that aren't very happy about this entire thing. Hold on. Here, let me read some of this article for you about Umbrella Man, because I just read the top of the article and then I watched the video for some reason. I don't know. It says Minneapolis investigators say masked umbrella carrying man who was filmed in a viral video smashing windows during the protest in the cities in late May against the police killing of George Floyd was a white supremacist intent on inciting violence. In an affidavit filed in state court on Monday as part of an application for a search warrant and seen by BuzzFeed News, an arson investigator with the Minneapolis Police Department identified the man as a 32-year-old member of a Hells Angel bike gang who is intended to incite violence at the peaceful demonstration. And at the same time, the Chinese quote-unquote Communist Party, which is actually a National Socialist structure, so I'm going to refer to them as the Chinese Nazi Party. They were also targeting people on Facebook with what is called atrocity propaganda about police brutality. They were targeting people on Facebook using targeted ads. And so it's not just the far right in the US. This is the real far right. Not just like the dude that you're calling racist because they don't agree with everything you say, but the white supremacist prison gangs that we all know is the real far right. And who do the white supremacist prison gangs fall into the same category as? The black prison gangs. Right? And then the black prison gangs vote for Democrats, right? So this is how Nazi coalitions form, is through strange bedfellows. And so it starts out with an equality movement where because do you really think that Nazism started because people were completely against it and everybody wanted to stop them? They hated Nazis at first? No, that's absolutely not why this happened. Not at all. No. This happened very specifically because it was an equality movement where they were trying to make a socialist utopia. And people were on board with it. They blamed the 1% for their problems. At the time, they were the Jews because they had biased, they were experimenting with socialism, and the Jews advocated for Marxism while they would only share it with their in-group. And this caused everyone else to hate them, similar to how BLM hates the 1%. And then the 1% started, or the poor people started murdering the 1%, and then they turned into Nazis. The article continues to read, the man's identity drew widespread speculation after he was filmed on May 27th, slowly and methodically smashing windows out of an AutoZone in Minneapolis, where protests erupted. Following the May 25th death of Floyd in police custody. Thank you, BuzzFeed. Thank you. Credit where credit is due. They do not say a killing of George Floyd because it was a death. It was a homicide. A homicide means that you don't know whether or not it was justified or not. Continuing the article, while named in the affidavit, the man has not yet been charged with any crime, so BuzzFeed News is not naming him. The man did not immediately respond to requests for comment for the story. So we don't know whether or not this guy was a white supremacist. Why am I even reporting on this? Can anybody tell me why? So BuzzFeed knows who the person is, and then they went and then contacted the person, and they're not filing any charges, but they're reporting on it. This is the entire problem with why we're having these race riots. Let's call them Democrat race riots. It's because they're presuming that you're guilty until you're proven innocent, and then you get mob justice. You have vigilantes coming after you who so whenever incidences happen and somebody's guilty, and you can pretty much assume that that person is probably going to try to alleviate themselves of any sort of guilt, and they're not going to tell the entire truth, or their lawyer is going to tell them, don't say anything, and you're not going to know the entire truth. You're not going to get the truth for some number of days, weeks, or months after the incident actually occurred. So we don't know if this dude was actually the arson, but even if it was a white supremacist who started the rioting, this does not alleviate the rioters, looters, and murderers of guilt, because they continued to riot and loot. It doesn't matter that somebody on the far right is starting it. If you are continuing to riot and loot, at that point in time, the left is responsible. The Democrats are the ones who are responsible for the rioting and looting, because those protests were protests against Donald Trump. They were not protests against police brutality. They were protests to get Biden elected in office. That's what it was about. It's what it's always been about. Moving on, in the next article from NPR, Portland protesters file suit against Trump administration over federal response. These people are crazy. Protesters, including members of Wall of Moms and Don't Shoot Portland, are suing Portland administration over what they describe as violent and intimidating federal response to nightly demonstrations against systemic racism and police brutality. So let me get this straight. They're protest over the killing or the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and they have some other martyrs. But this is all about Donald Trump. They're protesting against Donald Trump. The group of organizations and individuals filed 9 court complaints on Monday against the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, its leaders, and several other federal agencies, whom they accuse of violating protesters' constitutionally protected freedom of speech, freedom of unreasonable seizures, right to due process, and deploying federal agents unlawfully to squash plaintiffs' speech and end their protests. So they're claiming that what they're engaging in is free speech. So this is the free speech that they're trying to sue to protect. Here's them burning down a juvenile detention facility in Seattle. Is that right? Youth detention facility, yeah. And then here's in Portland, they're burning down the federal courthouse, ripping off the plywood boards here in this scene so that they could set it on fire. Here they are setting the courthouse on fire, the federal property. Here they are rioters carrying shields rushed back into Portland Federal Courthouse after law enforcement returned inside. Rioters cheered and celebrate, claiming that it to be a battle for victory. So it's a battle for them. This is a battle of Portland. They're in a fantasy delusional la-la land where they think that there's Nazis coming to get them, and so they have to battle the Nazis. Watch it again because that's just so funny. Woo! Yeah, here is them hitting a federal agent with a projectile. So there's police agencies in multiple cities engaging in riot control. They're targeting federal property. They are, do I have the other one? Oh, it's gone. Damn. Don't have the police brutality video. So, damn. Was this article say anything else? It says they argue that the federal officers are overstepping their law enforcement authority, alleging the acting Secretary of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf, is not legally serving his role because he has not been nominated by President Trump or confirmed by the Senate. Okay. The Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Immigration and the U.S. Department of Justice did not immediately respond to NPR's request for comment on Monday evening. At U.S. Customs and Border Protection spokesman said the agency does not comment on pending litigation. The lawsuit was brought in the U.S. District of Columbia by a number of lawsuit firms and Protect Democracy, a left-leaning litigation organization. They're representing Don't Shoot Portland, Wall of Moms, and individual Black Lives Matter protesters. So the people that they're suing to protect are not being brutalized by the police. They're not experiencing systemic racism. So the reason why you're protesting has nothing to do with the lawsuit other than the fact that it was Donald Trump that you're suing. That's the only real correlation here, because Ted Wheeler also used riot control agents. He also shot projectiles, beanbags, mace paintballs. They maced people. They're definitely guilty of the same tactics, but they don't. It's never been about police brutality. It's always been about Donald Trump. Continuing in the article, protesters have been gathering in downtown Portland on a nightly basis since the death of George Floyd. Thank you very much, NPR, for not saying the killing of George Floyd. On May 25th, in early July, the federal government had been deploying agents to the city in order to protect federal property. The plaintiffs alleged the conduct of those federal agents, including away from the federal courthouse they were sent to protect, suggests they were actually carrying out a different DHS policy to intimidate, silence protesters because of their message. Or maybe it's that they were trying to burn the federal courthouse down, and the local police officers were unable to adequately enforce the law to protect U.S. civilians. So the federal government had to go protect the federal property and enforce federal law, because when you start throwing explosives at police officers, you are now under federal jurisdiction of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. In this next article from the Oregonian, Portland issues maximum fine based on Fed unpermitted fence outside courthouse, quote, and counting, unquote. Portland Commissioner Chloe Edley said on Tuesday that the city is fining the federal government at least $500 for every 15 minutes, the maximum charge allowed, until it removes the unpermitted fence blocking the bike lane in South 3rd Avenue. Udale, so obviously this is a political prosecution. Because, well, it's easiest to just look at it. Here are the protesters shining laser lights at the federal officers in order to blind them. Here are the them trying to tear the fence down. So obviously the protesters don't like this fence. So obviously the people who filed the lawsuit also, or the Portland people that are fining the feds, they also too are on the side of the protesters. So it's not that the fence is illegal, because we can obviously see that these protesters are very violent. Here's them trying to tear down the fence. And I'm missing slides. So who are these people that are doing this stuff? Here's a tweet from Andy No. Seattle area Google engineer Zachary Ames Trudeau was arrested in the Antifa riot in Portland, Oregon. The 32-year-old is charged with assaulting, attempting to escape, resisting arrest, and more. He was quickly released by the Portland riots, Black Lives Matter. So I realized that I'm a software and computer engineer, and I realized that the engineering industry, well, it's not the engineers. The engineers are rather conservative, but the programmers and the fields that have more women in them, they have been radicalized. I personally got canceled because of me starting to putting meninist jokes on the internet, and then the troll war that resulted from that. And then I'm on Twitter. I do Cooking with Kale. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/cooking with Kale. And from doing this show, I have to interact with a lot of prominent programmers. And from talking about feminism, I got attacked because I was critical of feminism, and they really, really hate racism, sexism, Islamophobia, but the women are white feminists. So that's a racist version of feminism, where the white woman's at the top. And the reason is that they support these ideologies is because they get money. They get more money when they do that. Single white women are some of the most wealthy people in the entire world. Literally, some of the most wealthy people in the entire world. If you're attractive and you are a white woman and you don't have a kid, you can make a lot of money. You can make way more money than most people can make. And so these people are radicalized because they're not very good with women. They spend most of their time at work. And so they develop their friendships with women around work a lot of times. And the women that they interact with on dating sites, I am a software and computer engineer, so I know this very, very detailed. Firsthand, the women on dating sites don't really know how to interact with you. So you look for like the business women type of people. So they have this group of people where they're trying to date in this one group, and most of them are at work all the time. So they're kind of asexual, and they are somewhat depressed about this. And then they get very angry. So they don't have girlfriends, or maybe they have a wife and they just support the dogma at the workplace. But they get rid of the white men because they think they're racist and sexist. And because when you get rid of the older guys who are making more money, you can replace them with younger people who you can charge less. And they do this thing in the engineering community or in the programming community and in every engineering job where it's called crunching. And this is where you have to be at work like 16 hours a day and you have a deadline. And in the video game industry, it's really bad. It's abusive. They suck the life out of you. And so this is why they target the younger people, so because they can pay you less and you don't have any kids, and then you can be at work all the time. And then so it's a really, really shitty atmosphere to be in, to work in. They don't care about you at all. You're a dollar sign to them. They want the lowest rate. They want the highest quality, and their average age is in the 20s that work there. Like 30s is over the hill. I'm 38. I'm way over the hill to do that stuff. I have a kid. They would not let me work that job because I have a child. They discriminate upon you based upon your status as a parent, your race, your gender, your age. Every single scumbag thing that you could do at work, these people do. They do it inherently. They live in a culture that is normalized to replace people. They look for it's a meritocracy. It's a battle to the top of the hill. If you can't make it, they're going to hire somebody else to put in your place to get up there. And the labor costs are so high that they have to cut cost. So some of this is them having to do this, but the problem is that they fire all of the good people and then you're left with a bunch of shitty people. This is fundamentally why these social media companies, the big tech, Facebook, Apple, Google, Twitter, all these companies that are engaging in the clickbait, ragebait, fembait, where you have to do a lot of work, but there's not a lot of gain. They are exploiting the leftists because they're younger college students. So you can pay them less and then you have to keep hiring them. So there's been a infiltration of Marxism in the universities. Cultural Marxism. Cultural Marxism is the most deadly form of Marxism because in order to get their Marxist dreams, they have to kill everyone that is preventing them from having their socialist utopia. And these people have taken over Silicon Valley. They've taken over Facebook. They've taken over Google. And as a programmer, I'm going to have to say these people are very shitty people. I think that they really just need to disband. They need to get a diversity of thought. They need to stop with this whole trying to minimize their cost and maximize their profits at the cost of our society. They need to train the black people. They need to not fire the old white guys because 70 some odd percent of America is white. Here's some of the people in Eugene that got arrested. Here is William Fogty Gibson and Emma Grace Haskins, age 28, charged for felony writing in Eugene. Here are some other people from Eugene that got arrested. Michael Thomas Madison, 37, arrested in Eugene, Oregon Antifa riot on July 25th through 26th. He was charged with felony writing. More. Kelly Michael Fitzgerald, age 40, was arrested for felony writing. Arrested. Anybody else up on here? Here's some damage that they did. Ooh. Like, there's hardly any police brutality here. Out of any sort of town that you can protest for police brutality, and it would not make any sort of sense to protest police brutality in Eugene, Oregon. It doesn't exist here, dude. Like, Most of the police brutality is in Democrat-controlled cities, and this is a Democrat-controlled city, but it's one of the most peaceful cities around. I just don't understand this. But anyways, we've reached the end of the slides for today. Thank you for watching Real Simple News with Cale McCullough on Tuesday, July 28th. And this was the second run of the show because the first time the desktop audio went down, and because it is we do live in reality and we need money to sustain the show. Here, let me do a quick plug for funding here. If you want to make a donation to the show, you can do so. It's going to be at realsimplenews.net. It's going to be at realsimplenews.net /donate. But I don't have that page up yet. So you can make a donation at cookingwithkale.org. This show is funded by open source. Real Simple News is an open source news organization. You can find us at github.com /realsimplenews /realsimplenews. Or you can just go to realsimplenews.net, and you can find the issue ticket for this show is issue ticket number 23. On this issue ticket, you can find all of the links to the articles. And if you found any sort of errors in the articles that you would like to correct, you can do so here in the comment section below. This is an open source news organization. Feel free to contribute to the website. And if you're in another country, we are definitely looking to expand into other countries and other languages. I say that with the caveat of you have to be good. We are the Real Simple News Network. I am Cale McCullough, captain of the Kabuki Starship, signing out here on July 28th, 2020. And until next time, farewell, sayonara, peace be with you, and Godspeed in your journeys, friend. And please tell your mother I said hi.